I'm your host for The Whole You. I am so excited to be here because I get to share my story with you, everything that goes with it, and how I got to where I am now, and how I hope to better myself moving forward. So today's episode is really our very, very first episode. That's pretty cool. I never thought I would be on this. Is it a TV show or I don't know how to say it, because when you say TV...
It's a network. It plays on your TV. Everybody, you can watch it on your TV.
Yeah, like, right? I don't even know what this is. Where am I? The Twilight Zone. But I never thought I would actually be on camera. I've never really liked to be in front of the camera. I've liked to be behind the scenes, helping people, getting things done, creating. But I never thought I would be here. But there are many, many things that have led me to this very moment. The idea of this show came up almost overnight. I came in here and I did a show with Darshana. Actually, we ended up doing 2 shows on Enlighten Up, and I realized it was a lot of fun. And I thought, if I had so much fun doing that, why not do more? So I went home that night and I wrote 20 episodes. We've got a great season lined up. We're going to talk about food and how it affects your body and your mind, and how you can make small changes in your own diet to help you become healthier and to make you feel better. We're even going to do a cooking segment so that you can learn about some of the things that make it easy. Often we hear about trends, we read articles, but we don't know how to put things into practice. So I really want to help you put things into practice that'll improve your health and wellness. So the cooking show will be a great example of that. We're also going to talk about meditation and exercise, and even a little bit about play. Did you know that it's important to play when you're an adult? I didn't. Now I do. I used to think it was more important to complete my to-do list than it was to take time for myself. And that is not correct. So we're going to address all of those types of things. But the first thing I wanted to do was let you guys know a little bit about me. I think in order to understand why I'm doing this show and why I want to bring this stuff to you, you have to understand who I am and how I got here. I've been an endurance athlete for a long time. I grew up in upstate New York and Vermont. My parents were divorced, so I kind of went back and forth. And I found running fairly early on as a way to reduce my stress and reduce my anxiety in my life. Everybody has it, and it doesn't matter what it is. Everyone has their own story. Everyone has their own reason for being stressed out or having anxiety. I had a lot of reasons, but running really helped me get through. It helped me figure out how to deal with that stress and anxiety, but also how to get past it and make something of myself. Running for me was the catalyst for my career. I'm a physical therapist, and I specialize in orthopedics and sports medicine. I treat mostly runners and triathletes, and everything I've done in my career has been around runners and triathletes. So running is a huge part of my identity, and so is triathlon and endurance sports. However, a few years ago, I had just had my son. He was about a year old, and I was training for a half Ironman. I've tried to train for a half Ironman before, a couple times. The first time I tried to do it, I got a concussion, so I had to back out of the race. The second time, I got pregnant, so I had to back out of the race. And then the third time, as I was training for it, I just noticed I wasn't feeling good. I often had to stop because of fatigue. I found myself kneeling down in the road trying to catch my breath. Nothing was feeling right. At first, I thought it was because I was a new mom, just like every other mom out there and every other dad who's ever had a child who doesn't sleep through the night. I was exhausted. And I kept asking everybody, why am I so exhausted? What is wrong with me? And everyone laughed and said, you're a new mom. That's why. So I thought that was it. It turns out it was much, much more than that. One weekend, I went with a group of my girlfriends to run a half marathon. It was a girls' weekend at the beach, and we're all looking forward to it. I went out and I started racing. I felt great. I started running, and I was running really fast, probably 7 to 8 minute miles. I can't remember exactly. And I kept going, and I thought to myself, I really shouldn't do this. I haven't trained as hard. I haven't been feeling well lately. I think I'm pushing it too much. But I kept going, I kept going, I kept going. And I ended up feeling pretty well until mile 10. At mile 10, all of a sudden, I felt like I was hit by a truck. I felt my heart beating out of my chest. It was literally out here. I'll never forget. I looked down and thought, gosh, I think there's something wrong with me. And then I kept going. I stopped, I walked, I started to breathe. I looked down at my Garmin watch and thought, what's wrong with me? And my heart rate was in the 200s. I thought, gosh, that stupid Garmin, I know it's broken. Like, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm an endurance athlete. I'm healthy. So I walked for a little while and I watched the number on my Garmin go down, and it finally did. And then I just started running again, and I ran throughout the rest of the race. I ended up finishing the race in just under 2 hours, but the last 3 miles were horrible. And I was very nervous and very anxious, but I never told anybody. I just felt bad for not doing my best. I thought, gosh, you're such a slacker. You should have been training harder. You should have done better. After that, I went home and I didn't really tell anybody what happened, and I continued training. And I was, like I said, I was training for a half Ironman. I would go on runs with my friends. I would go on runs with running groups, and sometimes by myself. About 5 weeks later, it was actually my son's first birthday. I went out for a 5-mile run. No one was at home. I had just brought my son to school. My husband was at work, and I was getting ready to go into work. I went out for my run, and I felt really tired, and I kept having to stop, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me, and I was getting really mad at myself. And I thought, gosh, what is wrong with you? What is wrong? Why can't you go further? Why can't you go faster? And at the end of the run, I said, screw it. I'm going to go as fast as I can to make up for what a bad run I had. And I did that. And the moment I stopped, it happened again. My heart was literally out to here. I now know it's called VTAC that was happening. So my heart was beating so fast, I could literally look at it and see it. I mean, it is the scariest thing that you've ever imagined. I was losing my breath. I thought I was going to pass out. And I just kind of wandered to my front steps and I sat down. And I don't know how long I was there. I considered asking for help, going to find somebody for help, but I thought, gosh, you must be overreacting. So I sat on my front steps and I just kind of bent over and I started breathing, trying to calm myself down. And eventually I came out of it. The rest of the day I felt terrible, and I called my husband to say, I think something's wrong. And he said, do you need to go to the doctor? And I said, I guess not. I think I'm fine now. It wasn't until the next day that I went into my office and I was advised to go to the doctor. Now, if I had been an outsider, I would have told myself to go too. But when you're in something like that, in a moment like that, you really aren't logical. You're not thinking. So I never thought anything would be wrong with me. I was an endurance athlete. I could do triathlons. I could run 50 miles a week, ride my bike for 6 hours. There was no reason for me to think anything was wrong. Well, I was wrong. I went to a clinic, and after several hours of testing, they told me that I had idiopathic VT, or ventricular tachycardia, which means that your heart races and goes very, very fast, so over 200 beats per minute, and it's dangerous. If people go into VTAC, they can also flatline and die. VTAC is what sometimes leads up to sudden death. So we didn't know exactly what was wrong. Idiopathic in the medical world means I have no idea what's causing it, which is not a great place to be. I unfortunately know just enough to know that they didn't know. It eventually took 9 to 10 months to figure out what was wrong with me. And during those months is when I really started to grow. During those months, I had to face things that I never thought I would have to face. I had difficulty sleeping, which I'd never had in my life, because in the middle of the night I would wake up thinking I'm going to die. I had a 1-year-old sleeping in the next room. If my husband went away on work trip, I prayed to God that I didn't die in my sleep so that he would be left alone. Those were the things that I was thinking about. So I had to find a way to deal with my anxiety because I couldn't keep doing it, and I was told I could no longer run. So in the midst of this 9 months of not knowing what's wrong with me, they slowly started to take all of my coping mechanisms away. At one point, I was told, you can't have coffee because that makes your heart race. I love coffee. I mean, I really love coffee. I could even just sniff it and be totally happy. But I couldn't have coffee. I couldn't have chocolate. They didn't want me to have red wine. And I couldn't run or exercise. I mean, that is everything I love. Wine, chocolate, coffee, running. Are you kidding me? got some of those back. I still haven't gotten all of those back, and I definitely haven't been able to run. But through that time, it was really hard because I had to start facing all of the things that I was running from. I struggled with perfectionism, which means that if it wasn't perfect, it wasn't worth it, which means I wasn't worthy. And that was something that I didn't know until I started to lose all of my coping mechanisms. So that's something I've had to actually work on, and I've struggled with for a long, long time, but just in the last several years have I actually tackled it. And it's been a pretty amazing experience. I had to learn that anxiety would affect my heart disease. I was eventually diagnosed with something called ARVC, which is arrhythmogenic right ventricular cardiomyopathy. Basically what that means is that I have a couple things going on. My electrical system is kind of crazy. It goes all over the place. I can go into VTach, or I can have PVCs, which are preventricular contractions, so extra beats on your EKG. And the heart muscle itself is affected. So my disease process is genetic, which means that one of my parents gave it to me. Neither of them have been tested yet, so I don't know which side of the family it comes from. But what happens to the heart muscle itself is that the cells actually begin to break down, and then the cells become scar tissue, and then the heart wall itself can't actually pump. So it's a really crazy and incredible disease for someone like me to have, because the only thing that makes it worse is exercise. It's been found that exercise is the one thing that can make my disease process worse. Exercise has always been the one thing that relaxed me, helped me get my thoughts straight, helped me get to where I wanted to get to. But now I can't do it. So it's really ironic. And because of that, my journey has been incredible. I've had to change so many things about myself. The way that I eat. I like to say I'm an 80-20 vegan. I think this is totally wrong, and every vegan will probably be mad, and then people who are not vegans may be annoyed as well. But I say I'm an 80-20 vegan because I cook a vegan diet for myself, and I really work on looking at what I'm putting in my body. But then if I really want a meatball, like the other day, I really wanted this meatball, I ate the meatball. So you do what you can, right? But honestly, I mean, I've had to change my diet. Most of the time I am vegan, but I'm not going to be the person at the dinner party that everybody's stressed out about that can't eat anything. And if I go out to dinner and want to have the meatball, I'm going to eat the meatball. That's the way it goes. I've also had to figure out how to channel my stress and anxiety. I found that meditation has really helped me. I was just talking about meditation recently, and it was so hard for me at first. Imagine this perfectionist who can't get anything wrong trying to meditate. Are you kidding? I would sit there and I would set my timer for 3 minutes, and I would sit there and say, when is it over? When is it over? When is it over? Am I almost done yet? Have I beat it? Oh God, it's been 5 seconds. And that kept happening. Prior to being diagnosed with ARVC, I pushed myself all the time in every aspect of my life. I pushed myself to be the best at everything I was doing, from the best PT to the best runner to the best cook to making my house look perfect when I had guests over. Everything about what I was doing was trying to be the best. I didn't necessarily know I was doing that, but now looking back at it, I think I was. So I continually pushed myself, and I pushed my body so hard that every time it tried to tell me there was something wrong, I didn't listen until I had to listen, and I had to stop running and competing altogether. I used to run up and down hills. I would find the biggest hill in any neighborhood that I could possibly find, and I would run up the hill as hard and as fast as I could until I felt like I was almost going to pass out. And I used to hope someone was watching. Every time I'd be like, yeah, I'm such a, badass. I used to love it when people would drive by and say, gosh, that looks crazy. Why would you do that? I used to run 10 miles for fun, which I actually would still do, but I think I would look at it differently now if I could. But I just pushed and pushed and pushed until I couldn't anymore. And then that was it. So now, I do a lot of yoga. So we'll probably touch upon that some point in the show and how I was able to transition myself from such an endurance junkie. It's like what I'd like to call it, meaning that I really enjoyed endurance sports, sports that took a lot of time and a lot of energy, to doing something like yoga now, where you have to be very mindful and aware of what's going on in your body. And I've had to learn how to respect different things that I never really had respect for. I used to go to a yoga class so that I would run better. I used to lift weights so that I would run better and faster. Now I can't run, but I can still lift weights. And I had to learn how to have fun in that. I had to learn how to find fun and joy in my life in places that I never found it before. And it's been really great. It's opened my eyes. I've been able to see things in a different light. I've been able to enjoy things that I never thought I would enjoy. I thought I had a good life before, but now my life is amazing. I'm doing things that I never thought I would do because I took away all of those barriers that I had made for myself. And that's what I want to share with you guys. I want to share with you how to do the things that we hear about in the news, in the research. I want you to look at it and say, you know what? That might be a challenge. I never thought I could do that, but I can. So my story is unique, but it's not that unique in that many people go through life-changing events all the time, right? There are so many cancer survivors out there. In fact, my brother's a cancer survivor. There are people that have to give up parts of themselves and parts of their life all the time because of disease or injury. And that's okay. That's what happens as we get older. That's what happens as we develop in our life. Every morning I wake up, I choose to be happy. I know that's a choice. I could wake up and I could be completely miserable, or I could choose to be happy and grateful for my journey, grateful for all the lessons that I've learned along the way. And I truly am. I have a lot of limitations. There's no question about that. I have a defibrillator, which is it's not a pacemaker, but it can shock me. It's not in the typical spot, which is right here on most people. Mine is actually under the arm, and it's about that big. So because I have that, it comes with a lot of different things. I can't wear zip-up dresses on the side. Some of my shirts look lopsided. In fact, I just bought this great dress at Athleta. I love that place. And it's kind of like awkward. The side of it goes over here because my defibrillator is pulling it. So I have limitations in my wardrobe. That's one thing. But also in what I can do. Heat really affects me. I live in the South. But if I go outside for more than 15 or 20 minutes in the summer, I might have to sleep for 4 hours, 5 hours, because I'm exhausted from it. So I have to really be able to manage my temperature. I have to manage what I'm doing in a day, but I'm not letting the disease define me. And that's really important. Like I said earlier, I choose to be happy. I choose to be grateful. The life that I have now is better than the life that I had before. And I really want you guys to hear that. And I hope that some of the things that I bring up through this series you can relate to and help you get to a better place wherever you are in your life. Whether it's you're living an amazing life and just wanting to get better, or you're really having a hard time with something and you need help getting out. That's what I want you to find from this show. So thank you so much for joining me today for my very first episode on The Whole You. I hope that you'll join me on this journey of discovering health and wellness, and I really want to do this together. So what that means is I want you to leave comments about how you felt about this episode, things that you want to see in the next episodes, so that I know how to be better for you. Thank you.